What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more RPG horror stories. I forgot to say happy Halloween, unless you watched the stream. Yes, that's right, I did a Halloween stream. At the end of the stream, I talked with some of y'all about doing this more on a regular, and I think I want to try to do it once a week. I'll try to see if I can do something this weekend. Maybe not a Saturday, maybe a Sunday. No, wait, Sundays are busy. Maybe a Friday? I'll try Friday, I'll see how that works out. You want to do something on Friday? I'm free Friday. Are you free Friday? Let's do something. The time and the day may change a little bit. I'm gonna experiment for this month and see if you can get something going. Nevertheless, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. That breaks your oath. I'm pretty sure there's a ton of stories like mine out there, but honestly, it still infuriates me just writing this. I'm a forever DM. Hooray! Ever since I picked up the habit a few years ago, most people around me don't want to or just aren't interested in DMing, which is fine, each to their own, but only ever being the DM can be a bit frustrating. I want to experience what it's like to be a player, all the fun that comes with it. So I made probably the dumbest decision possible. I looked online for a group where I could play. Yes, it's the subreddit you're thinking of. Anyway, I found a post that seemed interesting enough. Dark, gritty story vibes with it's actually right up my alley. I could never quite pull that off as a DM, but as a player, I don't think it'd be a problem. People mention these subreddits where you can find games. What is that subreddit? Is it r/LFG? Is that what it is? Am I overthinking it? Getting into the group was a bit of a process. I guess because so many people want to be players, but I managed to slip through the cracks and got invited, which was awesome. DM held a session 0 where he told me and 3 others the kind of game he wanted to run. We went over our boundaries for what we were cool with and what we weren't. Then we'll move to character creation. He asked us to make characters that weren't necessarily the usual types, something to shake things up and surprise them. We were starting at level 3, so I figured it'd be really cool to roll up a Paladin. Yeah, I know, a bit standard, but I thought the Oath of Conquest would really suit the vibe he wanted. Check with him and the others to see if they'd be okay with that. They were, as long as my character was neutral or good, which was what I had in mind anyway. Sure, it's a tricksy with Conquest, but it can be done. So session day finally comes and we all meet up. Start off great. We were hired by a caravan to escort their goods across the continent. We chatted a bit to get to know each other's characters, and then we were ambushed by a band of gnolls. It's a pretty classic setup, and honestly, a solid way to introduce a bit of everything in the first session. But that's where the problem began. As soon as the gnolls attacked, the caravan leader told our group, remember, hired mercenaries, "Kill the creatures! Our cargo must be protected!" or something along those lines. So naturally, we moved to protect the cargo and take down the threat. When it was my turn, I had my character move up to deal with the gnoll. That's when the DM goes, "You just going to do what he told you?" I was a bit confused, but maybe there was some hidden meaning there. So I said, "Yeah, I mean, that's what we were paid to do." Then out of nowhere, the DM says, "Well then, you breaking your oath. You become an Oathbreaker now." Which, look, I'm not the most experienced DM, but what? My clueless self even tried to argue. "No, it doesn't." DM replied with, "Yeah, you conquest. Your tenant says you have to rule. You can't take orders. You're going to be an Oathbreaker going forward." I'm sorry, but what the Batman shit is this DM talking about? I mean, I know paladins make an oath to their, like, they get the power from the oath, not necessarily from the gods, right? It's about the belief in the oath and the tenets and everything, right? And maybe it's a little bit of god-like. Let's, you know what, here's what we'll do. I'm not a paladin expert, but let's go read Oath of Conquest. Oath of Conquesting these nuts. Got him. Tenets of Conquest. Okay, so this is what the DM is basically talking about. There's 3 things in general about the Tenets of Conquest. A paladin who takes this oath has the Tenets of Conquest seared on the upper arm. Douse the flame of hope. It is not enough to merely defeat an enemy in battle. Your victory must be so overwhelming that your enemies will fight a shattered forever. A blade can end a life. Fear can end an empire. I don't see how this oath is particularly making a bad ruling. In fact, a paladin willing to slay gnolls to make sure they get fully dominated and just go off and don't attack the caravan, I don't think that breaks it. Maybe there's a different one. There's like 2 more. Rule with an iron fist. Once you have conquered, tolerate no dissent. Your word is law. Those who obey it shall be favored. Those who defy it shall be punished as an example to all who might follow. Now, here's the thing. The paladin hasn't conquered anybody yet, or anything. They're working. They're not, in the middle of conquering. They're just doing a job. They haven't conquered anything, so they have no dissent to tolerate yet. And word is law. It doesn't matter anymore. Your word is law. Not the law, but your word is law. So far, the Paladin hasn't conquered anything. There's nothing worthy of trying to conquer or dominate anything, so I don't see how that breaks it. There is one last one, so let's see it. Strength above all. You shall rule until a stronger one arises. Then you must grow mightier and meet the challenge, or fail to your own ruin. Wait a minute, hold on. That last one specifically, you must grow mightier and meet the challenge, which means the Paladin is currently starting a campaign and is growing mightier to meet a challenge. This DM is just misinterpreting the entire second part of the oath because he's expecting you to already be a ruler. If you want your player to already be a ruler, start him off as a lord. They haven't conquered anything. This is a dumb argument. This is completely stupid argument. How does that break any of the oaths? It doesn't make sense whatsoever. I mean, maybe I'm missing something out. Please let me know in the comments below if I'm missing something important. So far, it doesn't seem like the Paladin has conquered anything or has a reason to rule over anything. They're in the process of getting mightier, and that's fine. I don't know what this DM is on about. You can guess how the session went off the rails from there. Honestly, it was infuriating. First, that's not how it works, and second, that was the first bloody session. Who in the nine hells turns a Paladin into an Oathbreaker on the very first session? Well, I'm no one's doormat. So yeah, you bet a sweet gold coins I walked. The DM wouldn't hear me out or budge on the subject. So, no D&D was better than dealing with that nonsense. That really sucked because I was genuinely excited to finally play as a character. Honestly, still think this all happened because he just didn't want an Oath of Conquest in his game. And that's totally fine. Just tell me up front. I would have happily made a different character. Maybe not exactly a horror story, but still, ugh. I mean, it's a horror story, but I'm so glad that you decided to leave. See, many players out there that will let the DM walk over them, do something stupid like this that genuinely makes no sense whatsoever, and takes away the fun out of the player, and the player stays. And that becomes a problem. That's when you have like a lot of these horror stories that last forever and ever because the players succumb themselves to absolute torture and it's madness. But players that know something is a red flag and decide to listen, it's just not worth it, I'm just gonna bow out and walk. These are the stories that I like. Not great for making long videos for RPG horror stories, but listen, I'm not in this business for the longest RPG horror stories. I'm here to hopefully see people learn the lessons from RPG horror stories and previous encounters and terrible people and move on with something better. Because if people are enjoying the game they're playing, that's a good thing and I'm happy about it. Yeah, sure, RPG happy stories will never be as popular as RPG horror stories, but I mean, a story that ends on a good note is a good thing in my opinion. Also, if the DM didn't want to have Oath of Conquest Paladin, why didn't they just say so? Just say, hey Paladin, could you pick anything other than Conquest? I would really appreciate that. Pick the crowns or glory or whatever. I don't know, man, it's weird. But speaking of Paladin, you know what I've never really made? I never made a Paladin. I'm gonna make a Paladin. I'm gonna make the craziest, wackiest Paladin you'll ever see. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'll make somebody super tragic. I never made a tragic character. Maybe I'll make a tragic character, who knows? An Oathbreaker Paladin that is trying to redeem themselves to gain the proper, like, oath again. To redeem their broken oath. They didn't mean to break the oath, but they happened to, and now they want to come back and actually reinstate their oath again. They want to redeem themselves from previous past mistakes. I want to do a reverse Oathbreaker story. Oh, that sounds exciting. Anyway, I'm gonna put that on the back burner. We gotta get to the next story for today. First time playing D&D was so bad, it put me off TTRPGs for a decade. My first D&D game happened 18 years ago, and it was such an incredibly strange and bad experience that I didn't play with another group for about a decade. I recently found my old character sheet, and it brought this story back to the forefront for me. I was in high school and I'd been given all of the D&D 3.5 books as PDFs by a friend, and we'll call him Rogue. I read through pretty much all the 3.5 books in my free time, had already started plotting out a campaign I wanted to run. Only problem was that I had never actually played before, and I wanted to actually play before devoting more time to developing a whole campaign. I asked Rogue if he knew anyone that had a game going that I could join. Initially he told me no, but a couple of months later he told me that his GM would be starting a new campaign. There was an opening for myself and the guy I was dating at the time. It wasn't a session 0 with the GM, but all the players met up at Rogue's house to roll up character sheets. I noticed immediately that I was the only girl, but it didn't really bother me because I knew everyone that would be joining the game from school. probably should give him like a rundown, session 0, general do's and don'ts and stuff like that. Have a general rundown, talk about stuff that, the do's, the don'ts, the expectations you have, any sort of phobias and stuff, that sort of thing. Kind of do the general rundown of a session 0. I decided to play an elf ranger, and my then boyfriend decided to play a dwarven cleric. Rogue decided to be a gnome rogue, and we had 2 other players that were a human wizard and a human paladin. We did the old school method of rolling 4d6 6 times, dropping the lowest score because the GM preferred that method. I was told the GM usually liked players to roll up stats in order with 1 reroll for 1 ability score at the end, but he decided to change the method because I was a new player. We all watched everyone else roll in order to prevent anyone from fudging their numbers, because apparently that was a problem in the past with other players. I rolled horribly. My totals ended up being 15, 12, 11, 8, 7, and 4, which was dropped. Those numbers still in the margins on my old character sheet. Wizard was insanely min-maxed and rolled insanely good. He even offered to deduct points off his ability score to give me, but Rogue and Paladin said I just had to go with it. Since 3.5 elves have +2 dex and -2 con, I ended up having to put the 15 in con, so that it ended up being a 13 for the +1 modifier. Put 12 in dex so that it would be 14, 11 went to wisdom, 8 to strength, and 7 to charisma. The GM also decided that since we didn't roll our stats in order, just to balance things out, he wanted us to roll for our initial HP instead of just starting with max hit die value plus con mod. I rolled a 3. With my +1 mod, they gave me 4 total hit points. I wasn't exactly excited about playing, but still showed up the next week for my very first D&D session. 4 health? I mean, you must be at level 1, but like seriously, 4 health? At this point, DM, you should just be like, just max health possible and just add the modifier. Why have a player with 4 health? You know how easy they're gonna die? They're gonna die so fast. A pebble could fall on them, do 1d4 bludgeoning damage, hit him with a 4, and they would be dead. Wizard decided the day of our first session that his character was touched by madness, and despite having other spells, would only cast magic missile, and apparently GM approved this. Wizard immediately wasted a spell slot demonstrating this character quirk upon everyone meeting. Then we were given a very basic delivery quest, and on our way to the destination we got a random encounter. It wasn't anything crazy, just some mooks trying to rob our caravan. GM intended it to be a combat tutorial for Cleric and me, but I took 3 points of damage before I could get behind some cover. Paladin and Rogue told me to let them handle it because they didn't want me to die immediately during my first game. I could tell the GM was embarrassed and felt bad, because he didn't realize exactly how bad my character's stats were. He still helped Cleric figure out how to do combat. He was able to kill 1 mook. Wizard decided he was going to hide instead of fight, and after it was all over decided to waste his remaining spell slot magic missiling the already dead mooks. I'm guessing the Wizard is really playing up to their quirk. If they're mid-maxing but also just magic missiling corpses, that doesn't exactly benefit the party. Also, yeah, this is why you don't let people just go in for like 4 health. This is not gonna be good for them. After the fight, GM decided to tell me that I had 1 potion of healing in my bag and I could use it before we moved on. However, he made it clear that it was the only time he would do that kind of thing. It was only because I'm new to playing. So we moved on and arrived at the destination. It was an old church with a graveyard. We were supposed to meet the caretaker there and handle the cargo. But there was a note on the door that the caretaker had an emergency, that we should just put the cargo on the altar inside the old church. Felt like something bad was going to happen based on all the books I read, but everyone else was gung-ho, so I went along because I assumed they knew better. Of course, delivering the package and placing its content on the altar was part of the plot to reawaken a necromancer lich. He gained full power after we go outside. We're preparing to head back. The lich came outside and immediately started summoning all the skeletons from the graveyard. I wanted to get out of there because we were level 1, and I almost died to some mooks because I only had 4 HP. I wasn't trying to metagame, but I felt like GM wasn't intending for me to die my first time playing. All this just seemed like one of those fights we weren't ready for. But of course, Wizard started shouting magic missile at skeletons even though nothing happened because he was out of spell slots. Rogue and Paladin decided to start taking out the skeletons because they want more combat. Cleric and I confused and basically just hid behind cover. At that point, Cleric had to use the bathroom, and since he wasn't doing anything besides hiding the combat, GM just kept things rolling. It was at this point that Rogue, who was sitting next to me, decided to put his hands on my thigh. Ugh. He claimed it was an accident, but a little bit later he grabbed my ass when I was leaning across the table, to move my marker on the battle map to another cover spot. The audacity of this rogue trying to sneak an ass grab. Dude, everybody's gonna notice that. You should have called him out right then and there. Be like, yo, quit touching my ass, weirdo. This is disturbing. Don't play random grab ass with people, especially if you don't know them. Even if you don't know them, respect them enough to not play grab ass. Don't play grab ass, it's creepy. They're getting together for the second time ever, and this random guy just playing grab ass with a stranger. Don't play grab ass with a stranger. He tried to act like he didn't do anything. No one else saw him do it, so I felt like maybe I was wrong about what I felt. How? What do you mean you were wrong? You're not wrong for feeling someone's actual hand on your thigh and then on your ass. If it happens once and they said it was an accident, then maybe it could have been an accident. I don't know, but still kind of weird. Don't do it again. I don't know why you're just allowing yourself to just be gaslighted. You're gaslighting yourself at this point, thinking maybe I was wrong. Nobody saw it, so maybe it didn't happen. You felt a handprint on your ass. Then definitely somebody touched your ass. Then after I sat back down, he put his hand on my thigh under my skirt and moved it toward my crotch. Felt like it's important to mention that I was groomed as a child and experienced SA when I was 12. I had a very bottled up PTSD about that back then, and my first reaction to all of that happened was shutting down and freeze. Oh no, this is not the time to shut down or freeze. This is the time to get loud as possible. Just start hollering, basically. Like, listen, I get it. It's like your reaction is to freeze. I get it. But this is not the time to freeze. This is time to make as much noise as possible to let everybody know this person is being creepy as hell. Nothing works better than disinfectant. Nothing works better than putting some light onto a creep and their actions, making the loudest noise possible and making sure everybody knows what exactly is going on. I'm very surprised the DM and the other player didn't even notice anything. There's no way that other players just didn't notice anything at all. We all heard Cleric walk back down to the basement. A rogue hastily moved his hand off me. I took the opportunity to move over to the other seat next to me that Cleric has been sitting in for the rest of the game. I didn't want to make the situation any weirder, so I didn't tell Cleric right away while we switched seats. Finally, everyone in combat decided to run away from the unwinnable fight. When we got back to the town, we had gone down and Rogue started having his character flirt with my character. Tried stopping this by telling the GM that I'd be taking a long bath in a locked bathroom away from everyone. I know I'm like cutting down in the middle of the story, but I'm surprised you decided to stick around through this. If something like that happens to you, the best thing to do is just say, no, I'm not cool with that. This guy's touching me inappropriately. He's touching me on places that he shouldn't be touching. And just leave at that point. Honestly, listen, I know this like, you know, there's no point in talking about something that happened in the past, but it's just a lesson for the future. There's nothing more potent as a disinfectant to creep behavior than sunlight. If somebody's doing something creepy, you call that out and you be loud and you just be, I don't know, as obnoxious as you need to be to make sure that everybody knows somebody's being a creep. And then if you're in a position with being around a creepy person, you leave the scene, leave the area. Don't be around a creep. Just don't. Avoid all creeps, no matter who it is, no matter who you are, no matter where you at. TTRPG, not TTRPG. Don't be in the same places with creepy people. If people are being creeps towards you, you call them out and then you leave the scene because it's just not worth being around them. It's not worth being around in their behavior. This behavior is unacceptable, and I'm assuming the Rogue is going to try to do something with the whole bath comment. Rogue then asked if he could lockpick the door when I was distracted and described himself hiding in the bathtub I drew for my character. How are you going to hide in a bathtub? Somebody's already running a bath. You just sneak in, dip. Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. This is, if the DM allows it, then this is a horrible DM. This is a problem DM and a problem player literally working in cahoots together. I hope the DM says no. GM let him roll for stealth under bubbles. So my character got in a tub with his character in the water and he tried acting like it was just a prank and not at all sexual. Cleric gets assumed it was innocent roleplay, as he had played a different TTRPG before this and wasn't too bothered at the time. I was feeling really uncomfortable, so for the rest of the session, I just didn't know what to do and just wanted to stop playing. We wrapped up pretty quick after that because the GM noticed I was uncomfortable. I finally told Cleric what had happened after we got in the car. He was so angry and wanted to do something, but I didn't want that. I just told him we weren't going to play with them ever again. Something about the story doesn't make sense, and please point it out if I'm incorrect about this. How come the cleric is fine whenever that's actually happening, like in session, right? The rogue sneaking in, lockpicking the tub, and trying to sneak under the bubbles to go surprise to a naked PC. But then as soon as Ranger, OP, starts telling cleric about what happened in general, now they decide to get mad, now they decide to get upset, not before the weird behavior started happening at the table. table. Maybe this was the common shithead things to do, and most people are like, yeah, whatever, he's being a harmless shithead. But honestly, it's kind of hard to ignore it as a red flag because somebody is trying to sneak in while somebody else is in a bath. That's not normal. It's not normal in any situation, TTRPG or otherwise. It's weird. It's creepy. He was so angry, wanted to do something, but I didn't want that. I just told him we weren't going to play with him ever again. When I talked to the GM about it, he admitted to me that Rogue was always a problem with girls at the table. I told him it wasn't fair of him or the other guys not to warn people ahead of time about Rogue. All the guys made up some bullcrap about being friends since grade school, and they couldn't kick him out since he held games at his house. Then hold games at somebody else's house. You don't have to be playing with Rogue the whole time. Doesn't matter how long you've known him. If you've known him for that long and you know the creepy behavior, wouldn't you want to call it out? If I have a friend and my friend is clearly doing something bad, as a friend to this person, I wouldn't just let him continue doing something bad, whether it's to themselves or to somebody else. I would tell him, hey, knock it off, dipshit. What you're doing right now is a bad thing, a creepy thing, a thing that's not really healthy for anybody around you. You should knock it off, because guess what? Real friends tell their friends when you to knock it off and cut the shit. I expect that out of Mary. I expect that out of Micah. I expect that out of any friend that I have. If I'm doing something wrong that is clearly no wrong, maybe I'm not aware of it, maybe I don't realize how it's affecting other people, I wanted to tell me and call me out on my bullshit so that I know it's a problem. I don't want somebody just to say nothing for years and years since grade school. Who knows how old these people are? But seriously, if you've known each other for a while, you would think you would probably want to warn your female player. It's like, hey, yeah, this guy's being really weird, so watch out for him. If he does anything, tell us, let us know. Or I don't know, have some sort of a talk with the guy saying, listen, if you keep doing that to every single girl that plays with us, we're not gonna have you in the game anymore, because it makes all the new players feel weirded out with your creepy ass behavior. I get it was 18 years ago, but even then you would think you would have some sort of standards of who you associate with. Don't associate yourselves with creepy perverts, especially creeps like this guy. I found out many years later that he actually escalated to SA. Multiple girls. One was a girl I tried to warn that didn't want to listen to me about him a year after the incident with me. That one broke my heart. Those childhood friends dropped him then, but it's still a shame they stood by him all those years. Oh, they did drop him once he actually went and essayed somebody. That is so messed up. That is awful. Can't believe it had to go to this lengths, to this extent, before they decided to drop him like a bad joke. That is awful. Dude, these people suck. And that's what happens when you don't call out people on no bullshit. You wait until the very last moment to do something awful, and then you decide to drop. How convenient of you. I was really disappointed and traumatized. My first experience with D&D. Having completely nerfed character from bad rolls was horrible enough, but then having someone that I thought was a friend put his hands on me, and then having everyone in the room that knew what this guy was like try to gaslight me in the moment so the D&D session wouldn't be stopped. Took me about 10 years and lots of therapy working on all my trauma to even want to try again. On a happier note, I have found a wonderful group, and I've even accomplished my dream of DMing my own games. Found my old notes, and I'm actually working on developing campaigns similar to the original idea I had 18 years ago. OP, I'm wishing you best of luck with that, and I hope you get to make the best campaign that you possibly wanted to make. I wish you best of luck with that. But also, it's a lesson as well. A very important lesson. If you have a friend and you actually are friends with a person and care about the person in any capacity or have any kind of relations with them at all, and they're doing something absolutely awful, diabolical, creepy, unsettling even, you call them out on that. If they're actually your friend, you call them out. I'm beginning to think that maybe these guys never really had Rogue as their actual friend. They just like the fact that he offered a convenient place for them to play TTRPGs, but then you can just go to a different place to play TTRPGs, a game store, a local game store, a library, anywhere at all. Virtual spaces at this point. I mean, I know back in the day they probably didn't have like VTTs and virtual spaces, but you probably had some sort of a game store you could go to, or a library, or another person's house that wasn't going to be a creep about it. It's just, unsettling, really unsettling. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.